My friends, we have been understanding how to self-inquiry. So in the journey of this self-inquiry, we were just understanding how to purify the mind. The purified mind can illumine the real self. Remember this. Always, never forget. No, I have lot of challenges in my life, so I remember just after this session, I'm fully busy, so I forget. Why I'm fully busy? Because of all the expectations from the entire world that I have been. And how long I have been fully busy since my birth. Because at the time of the birth, I was crying. And still I'm crying. And I don't realize why I am crying, why I am fully busy, why I have a lot of expectations, and then I have such a great aspiration. Oh, let me awaken to this spirituality. It will never happen. It has never happened. You know the dance, perhaps Sam might be knowing rap and hip hop and what else, there is a moonwalk, huh? Then there is a contemporary dance. So when the mind dances to the tune of the knowledge of the self, all our impurities are gone. And here and now, that is the beauty of this knowledge. We already are spiritual. So when mind dances to the tune of the knowledge of the self, your impurities are no longer present in you, in your personality. What is that knowledge? That knowledge is I am the real self. The nature of peace and happiness, love and wisdom. And when the mind dances to the tune of ignorance, then sometime we do rap, sometime we do hip hop, sometime we do one thought of anxiety multiplies and the mind starting, doing the hip hop. And then we suffer from anxiety, duality, conflict. And we don't realize. I become totally unconscious. That is why the master says we have to purify the mind before we talk of any awakening. It is not possible. So that is why people say we have a lot of dangers in this path, like kundalini meditation. Because the mind is engaged in unwanted, unwelcome thoughts. Never think that when you close your eyes, then only you have unwanted, unwelcome thoughts. They are already present below the surface of the mind. And they pop up. And then they start dancing. And they make your mind dance. And then we say, no, nothing is happening. Nothing will happen. Why anything will happen? So with that reference, if you understand, I have to purify the mind. If I do not purify the mind, it will not happen. It will not happen. Remember, mind or the intellect cannot know the real self as long as it is not purified. If it is purified, it is already there. Sun is already there. I remove the curtain and the sun enters into my room. But what happens? We have a doubt about the presence of the real self. Why? Because of the impurities of the mind. So a purified mind, every master says a purified mind or the intellect illuminates the real self, and that illumination takes place. That is known as an awakening or realization, whatever you say. And in the entire journey of the self-inquiry, We are, we are, yeah, we are in the 19th session of this self-inquiry. So in that journey, what we have learned, the impurities because of expectation and desire for peace and happiness outside. That is also known as the defects of the mind. Because as long as the impurities are there and we do not understand, practice remains fruitless. That's why you have seen that, sometime, guest comes, oh, you do a practice meditation. No, I practice meditation for 20 years. It doesn't look like, he becomes upset, he has a lot of expectation. We sense it. What the heck he's doing? Why he's doing for 20 years? And then you have another disbelief that is created in your mind. If this guy cannot change, why should I practice meditation? We don't realize that. And then we leave it. So we have understood that purity is absolutely essential in the entire journey of these 20 sessions. Self-inquiry is the best means of purification of the mind because it removes the ignorance. And then we started that we have to invoke the blessing. Every day in the morning, at least the moment you wake up, close your eyes, sit, at least for 5 minutes only. Sarvesham swastir bhavatu. Let everyone be happy. So now what will happen? The unwanted thought, unwelcome thoughts about the near and dear ones, but the reaction and the anxiety will drop down, will merge. No, I don't have time. Even I don't have 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes for going for other crazy stuff in the morning. Oh, let me first check my messages. Oh, the phone has buzzed. Let the buzzing of the phone remind you that let me invoke the blessing. That is the beginning of the step. I invoke the blessing. Then we discover where are the impurities of the mind, where to find them. We have discussed that. Then we also discussed in the journey that who is wise and who is wise fool. I believe you all remember. Wise fool says that I'm always worthy of suffering. And the wise says, how dare the suffering can enter into me? Let me understand it and get rid of it. Then we understood the ignorance is the root cause of all the suffering. Ignorance supported by the commander-in-chief. Commander-in-chief is our ego. Commander-in-chief is our ego. Ignorance, ego, commander-in-chief. Then what we understand? We understood we came to the 4 root weaknesses. We understood the 4 root weaknesses, that is the desire. Second is the agitation, triggering of the mind. Third is the greed or the repeat desire. Fourth is the fear. That we have covered in the last session. Then in the last session, we also read that there are 4 inner instruments. When we talk of the mind in the Eastern wisdom, we mean mind and the memory. You can say the mind is structurally 1, but functionally 4. Mind and the memory, intellect and the ego. That very I thought takes birth in the intellect. So there we come, we have the grief and the delusion, suffering. Grief includes all kinds of suffering, all kinds of psychological, mental and emotional challenges that we have in our life. So that includes under the grief or the suffering. There is no equivalent word in English language. That's why I translate that. And there is a delusion. Delusion means what appears true is not true. The most important example is the virtual reality. Imagined reality. I imagine I will marry, then I will go to a honeymoon, and then I will have couple of imagined reality. Anything imagined in my mind has to do with the delusion. And simple understanding of delusion is what appears true is not true. I have given example of that. It is like mirage water. The mirage water appears real when we are too far from that virtual reality. When you go closer, how you go closer to discover the imagined reality, that delusion is by inquiry, by understanding, by knowledge. When any thought comes, I have to pick up the thought and examine it, whether this thought is required in my mind or not, and where this thought is leading me to. If we don't inquire, you see how the master pointed out hypocrisy. We discussed about the hypocrisy and the injury. Injury is kind of physical or the mental injury that we do every day in our life. How we do injury? This guy is very crazy. I have need not to worry about it. I need not to worry about it. Yesterday, I and David were talking, and we said Casey. We went to the Casey's graduation party, and we both have the same phrase that we didn't know the Casey sings so well. The mind of a seeker has to see the positive side. Just sing it. You need not to enter into any kind of a gossip. So grief and the delusion starts from the likes and dislikes, then attachment and detachment. Then we create a desire for seeking happiness in the world outside. If the desire is fulfilled, we want to repeat that desire. That creates an obsession. If the desire is not fulfilled, the mind is agitated. That agitation causes all mental and psychological challenges. We will understand in Gita, I call it as an RSM syndrome: attachment, detachment, sorrow and the suffering, and M means here the delusion and the duality. We constantly suffer from the RSM syndrome. That is why we have unwanted, unwelcome thoughts in our mind. So we want to control those thoughts. We don't want to uproot. We don't want to understand the cause, the root cause of this thought. So grief and the delusion, the suffering and the delusion can only be removed by this self-inquiry, by the knowledge. You cannot remove it. You cannot go for self-medication. Self-medication means, let me take a drink and sleep. Next day, the same thought will return. Drinking cannot dissolve these unwanted, unwelcome thoughts. Disturbed sleep, anxiety. It has to go through the self-inquiry. Another form of the self-inquiry in psychology is psychotherapy. But their approach, they want to dig deep inside. They will always remind you that you have a stress, you have an anxiety, you have a split personality. We don't do that. We say you are peace, you are happiness, you are love and wisdom. So, hypocrisy, we already discussed that what we pretend to be and what we are not. It is also a part of the same ego. And as long as we have this, we cannot purify the mind. One master says you drop selfishness. Selfishness comes out of the ego. How to understand that? The moment you wake up in the morning, during the entire day, examine all your thoughts. Are you a contributor or are you a receiver? You want to receive from the world all the time. You see your son and you want to receive. Why? You have an expectation. Oh, you should behave like this. Whether I have been behaving like that or not, it doesn't matter. Overwhelming expectation lives in my mind. My dad is not behaving like this. Are you behaving like this? My students are not behaving. Are you giving yourself as a teacher? Are you performing your role? And you will see the entire mind changes. Otherwise, this mind coins those thoughts which will constantly haunt you during the day. So you were angry over your honey, but now you are at a workplace and you get angry over your employee. You are upset. You are upset with your dad and you go out and now you are upset with everyone. Are you understanding that? Part of the delusion. This is what happens. This is what the impurity of the mind. Last time I think I discussed about it. The remedy of this is said that if you find out minimum 10 to 15 minutes in solitude, you say goodbye to the world, you say goodbye to the honey, to your kids, just sitting. Do nothing. Examine how these thoughts are moving. Don't go for dating app. Sometimes we feel we are extra intelligent. What happens if I go for dating app? Now I have no objection. You have a liberty to put it. Think of it. When you think consciously, you are not moving with the likes and dislikes that gives you the pleasure and displeasure. This is the journey of the self-enquiry. And the moment you start thinking, you raise your awareness. You ask the sense organs and the motor organs should be under your control. They should move with the choice that you have made. That is the key. Until then, this we cannot find that presence of the real self. I started this talk that do you dance with ignorance? Now, I'm not criticizing any form of the dance, rap or hip hop, and what else? There are many dance forms. Sam might be knowing. So, when the mind dances in ignorance, it dances like hip hop, rap, what else? Moonwalk. I don't know dancing. We'll ask Casey. He knows it. She knows it. When the mind dances in tune with the knowledge that I am the real self, I am the peace, I am the happiness, even you remind yourself. What happens by reminder? You separate yourself from the objective world. What is that objective world? It is the objective mind, which contains the thoughts of anxiety, duality, and a conflict. So you recognize that the mind, mood, and the mental states are changing. I am not changing. I am different and separate from it. So what is ignorance? That I become the anxiety. I become the stress. I become the duality. That is the job of this self-inquiry. That is the work of the self-inquiry. Now I do it in 1 hour when you are talking, and after that I forget it. Why you forget it? Because mind has started dancing in tune with the ignorance. What is ignorance? The misconception, wrong notion. What is that misconception and wrong notion? If I do this, it will give me, if I work like this in the world outside with my relations, it will give me peace and happiness. So the mind is full of that expectations in the world. And if that expectation continues to repeat itself, it creates an obsession. Then you won't be able to sleep even night. Your whole life is disturbed. And who is responsible? You are responsible. So when the mind is dancing in tune with the ignorance, our actions are not refined. All our actions must be refined, and all our actions has its center in the mind. The mind prompts a thought of expectation, causes the grief and the delusion. Mind prompts a mind coins a thought out of the knowledge that I am different and separate from the mind and the body complex. Instantly, the mind calms down. Otherwise, in ignorance, we have a carelessness in action. We go with the likes and dislikes, and that causes the discomfort. It begins with the discomfort, it begins with the thought process, and it continues what we have discussed just now. So, grief and the delusion, these are the two aspects, can only be removed by this self-inquiry. Self-inquiry means that let me see, who am I? Am I the mind or the body complex, or different and separate from it? So you have to separate inside your head. The moment you start separating by contemplating and reflecting, the mind drops. Mind drops its ignorance. And then you practice meditation, the result is there. And then the hypocrisy, and then all these thoughts of the craziness. Now, I've been attending your session for so many weeks, nothing is happening with only 1 hour. The knowledge should dance in my mind all the time. It is more required when I enter into the world, at my workplace, in my relations. Here you don't get a chance to speak because I keep on speaking, so there is no chance. You are getting into angry or hesitation. No chance, except you share the experience. So this knowledge has to be translated into my life. When? All the time. Where? In all the relations, all the situations. That purifies the mind. Oh, it's very difficult. Does anyone mind says it is very difficult? No, it says, but I won't tell you. Suddenly the mind says, you don't understand my son and my honey and my relation, or so-called. The mind prompts that thought. Means what? I have a lot of expectation. This is the journey of the self-inquiry. Oh, it is because of the expectation. Let me drop all the expectation. What problem you have with anyone? Do you see that? Do you see? The mind will continue to attack your existence and your personality and your behavior. Why? It colors its perception based on others. Are you getting it? Say yes, it depends, its action based on the perception and the projection. And perception plus projection is nothing but the delusion. Mouse is not working. I have seen one guy threw the mouse and broke the mouse. It's not working. What the heck? You're fighting with the mouse. We have to get rid of. These are known as the impurities of the mind. Because what is in my mind expresses in terms of behavior. So what happens when we purify the mind? There is an attitudinal change. Your inner attitude in the mind changes. In turn, that expresses in the behavior, so your speech and action also changes. When the speech and the action also changes, you are known by your actions. Nobody knows how good you are inside. Do you see that point? Nobody knows how good you are unless you behave, you act, and you speak the way. And whatever you speak and the way you act, it will tell you your behavior, your attitude inside the mind. The mind expresses itself in speech and action. Eastern wisdom is not a part-time affair. You learn 1 hour of the session or 2 hours or 3 hours per week, and you allow those 3 hours of the knowledge to translate into your attitude. First in the mind, you internally change, and you will see your behavior and expression also change. This is one part of the story, but internally your mind is purified. The curtain is removed. What curtain? Curtain of ignorance. And what is behind the curtain is the real self. What is that real self? It is the pure consciousness. So when the curtain is removed, that when the awakening takes place. So we are making a journey to awaken to that real self, which is of the nature of peace and happiness. Which is of the nature of peace and happiness. In our next session, we will talk about 4 types of suffering. We have many suffering. Many types of we experience many suffering. We get upset over our dad or our honey. We get into anxiety, we react, we become angry. So there are millions of suffering. We don't have resources. That's why we are upset. My neighbor has so much and I don't have. We have sometimes physical illnesses, mental illnesses, emotional. Sometimes we feel, this guy speaks very well and I'm not able to, then I get frustrated. So suffering can enter from the back door in any possible ways. So our masters have classified these suffering into 4 categories. Why? In the journey of the self-inquiry, I can group them into these 4 classifications. So then I have a clarity how to remove those suffering. That we will take up in our next lesson. Close your eyes, my friends. Eyes are closed. How fast? Fast does not mean that you want an instant result. Remember this. Don't create a misconception about it. Your eyes are closed. The body instantly goes into steady. Again, I'm warning you. When I say body instantly goes into the steadiness, you are not anxious. You are not looking for an instant solution. Because of your regular practice and your understanding, that knowledge settles in your mind about being comfortable. So we need not to follow the 2 steps of being comfortable and being carefree. How do I know that? I know that there is no struggle in my mind. I'm already comfortable and carefree. What is the meaning of being carefree? Being carefree means that I am watching these thoughts are coming and going, but they do not have any impact on my mind. I watch them, I am very, and how it comes by regular practice. So now Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu. So this mantra, if you are repeating every day in the morning, at least for a couple of weeks, you will find an attitudinal change. What is the attitudinal change? It's the purity of the mind. May there be happiness for all. Why? Because happiness is the essential nature of all the living species. It is a fact, validated by the behavior, aspiration, desire of every living species on the earth. Check any species. Forget about the human being. Am I aware of this knowledge? It will work. Your mind, attitudinal change will come. What is that? Purity of the mind. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. May there be peace for all. Don't you feel in the journey of the self-enquiry that how your mind makes you helpless when you wake up in the morning and your mind says you are stressed? You cannot say that mantra. You forget. May there be peace. No, my peace is my essential nature. I force the mind to accept it. Maybe I force it for a couple of days and after that it becomes a natural state of my mind. I'm busy, I cannot do it. Don't you know that? You come here, you just give a talk and get the money. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. May there be completeness in all, wholeness. If the existence is whole, we are the creations of that existence. We are bound to be whole. We have to discover that wholeness. Is the journey of the spirituality, is the journey of the awakening, is the journey of the realization, is the journey to the nirvana. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. May there be auspiciousness for all. There is another way to auspiciousness. Find out an opportunity to be happy in the happiness of others. Why you go to the party? Why you go for an invitation? You see that? The honey is happy, and because your mind is boiling on some issues and you make honey unhappy. These mantras have a very subtle understanding, my friends. I'm not getting a sleep, so let me practice. No, I don't feel like practicing. So when we are always ready to create an auspicious moment in our life, we are ready for a journey. And the next step, as we have been doing, look deep inside the forehead in the space. Very good. In the space, and then you look at a point in the space. We are going in a subtle movement. I put everything on the YouTube. Why? I said this is not, once the session is over, this belongs to you all. Some people may do it and they get some idea about it. They will progress. It doesn't matter who is their teacher. So now you see the subtle aspect that you have already done. You are looking inside the forehead. You see the space or a projected emptiness or a darkness. You pick a point in the space. Picking a point in the space is 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 you are asking the mind to focus, but don't make any effort. Just pick a point on the in the in the space inside and drop Om Shanti with an interval. So when you are dropping Om Shanti in interval, now bring the mind on the body and start breathing quick and short breath through both the nostrils into the chest. So you are aware of the expansion and the contraction of the chest. You are aware of the steadiness in the body. You are aware of Om Shanti, and just continue. So when you have a natural awareness of dropping the Om Shanti at a point in the space, you are doing quick and short breath, your mind will not object you doing the breathing for a longer time. That subtle knowledge is in here, present here, and you will enjoy. Continue. You are enjoying doing the breathing. You are not forcing the mind to do it. If you are forcing, obviously the mind is full of the impurities. It is happening casually, naturally, flawlessly, maintaining your awareness of the steadiness in the body. It is happening naturally, my friends. Continue, you will experience the changes taking place in terms of tingling, numbness, colors, vision. We are leaving all of them behind. We are leaving all of them behind. Keep on, continue, my friends. And stop it. Do nothing. So doing nothing, it is a passive state where you recognize and understand through your reflection that I had no objection doing the breathing practice. I was able to maintain the steadiness. I was constantly dropping the Om Shanti at a point in the space, and I bypassed all my objections, ruled out all the objections of the mind. Or the mind was engaged in those objections. Means what? The impurity is present there. So at a subtler level, you recognize it. And now looking deep inside the forehead in the space, doing the Om Shanti, and this time you are doing the belly breathing. It's a longer breath, it's a little noisy breath. So, what happens? Your awareness and attention is naturally regulated because you are doing the belly breathing. You need not to make an effort to focus. You just remember, I have to do the belly breathing. You see the subtle aspects of this journey. Continue, my friends, continue. Continue. So it also helps you enable your endurance. Endurance is always present in everyone's life. We enable. So breathing practice acts as an enabler force. I'm not going into its physiological and the neurophysiological changes that I have spoken last year at length. And now stop this. Enjoy the changes. Your body is still in the state of steadiness, you may experience relaxation and stillness, some tingling, some numbness, some vision, some colors. You have already reflected upon the objections raised by the mind due to many reasons. We are not going for the reasons, we just recognize. The moment you recognize, the next time you know that these objections have to be ruled out by an endurance. What is that? You keep on doing it. Now looking deep inside the forehead again at a point in the space and dropping Om Shanti and start breathing both from the belly and the rib cage. It's a long, deep in the hissing breath. Long, deep in the hissing breath. And during the practice, if your body moves and jumps out at different places, obviously it is the mind causing this movement of the body due to the impurity of the mind. The mind keeps the body steady. It doesn't move, and you keep on breathing both into the belly and the rib cage. You watch the expansion and the contraction. Continue. Continue. Long, deep, and the hissing breath. We are using these breathing not only for the purification of the mind, but to recognize a higher states of awareness by which we can drive away the impurities by understanding. And then this breathing is not required at all. That you already find on Saturday's sessions. And stop this, do nothing. Become aware of how the breath returns to its normal breathing pattern. If you are aware of the movement of the breath, you will discover if the flow of the breath is equal to both the nostrils. If it is equal, you are already in that state of meditation. You may recognize it or not. You see, sometimes we are in that state and we do not recognize. That is another level of ignorance. But if you find the flow of the breath is uneven, means through one nostril the flow of the breath is more, other less. You can just check it by feeling the flow of the breath. That opens the door to another journey, deeper journey into the tantra. We will add that. Now look inside the cave of your heart, the equilateral triangle, and pointing upward of any color. So when you see any color, obviously you have to see the two colors. One is the background of the triangle and one is the triangle. Or sometimes your mind just visualizes without being aware of those colors. Move the mind on the side of a triangle, dropping Om Shanti. Clockwise and anti-clockwise. And you remember, I've been repeating the same instruction. I'm going to change it to make it subtler. So you understand when the moment you recognize there is a sinking of what? The movement of the mind, dropping of Om Shanti, and movement of the mind on the side of a triangle in the awareness of stillness in the body. When you find that sink, you take the mind with the singing Om inside the center of a triangle, as if you are pushing this mind now by saying Om, as if you're saying mind. No, real self is deep inside the cave of your heart. And then you say Shanti, and then they check that there is a conscious self-absorption. Thought may be there, but too far to disturb you, or thought may not be there. Both are possibility. We're not going into a habitual mechanical AI technique. It's an Eastern wisdom. Mind seemingly stops when there is a sink. Two trains are speeding at the same speed. We don't see both trains are moving. I'm talking of that sinking. I'm just giving you an analogy to help you recognize your experiences. We'll go deeper. And stop it. The great master Patanjali sees this state as naturally inward moving mind. Naturally outward moving mind is the impurity. And now, without the help of the fingers or the thumb, you start dropping Om Shanti mentally on the 16 segments. Shanti, it means it's a mind's eye, mind's hand, mind's touch, mind's ear, mind's tongue is working. So all the senses, this is how translation of one verse in Upanishad says the senses, objects merge into the senses and the senses merges into the mind. What do you mean by that? Impurity of the mind. Why? The mind is not going outside. But if you cannot do, you can use the finger also. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Ear dropping. mind picks up the first segment of the index finger. The moment your mind goes there, the prana also goes there. That gives you a feeling of sensation without touching the thumb, without touching that segment with the tip of the thumb. And you are dropping the Om Shanti there. The tongue is engaged mentally. Then the hearing, ears are engaged mentally because you are listening to what you are saying. Om Shanti. That brings a tremendous expansion of the mind. Extension of this mind is science, expansion of the mind is the spirituality. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bring your mind on the right hand, your mind on the left hand. Lift your both the palms, place it on your eyes. Open the eyes inside the palms, know your experiences. Bring the hands down, we'll share our experiences. If you have any question, you can share it. How are you, Samir?
Sir, I didn't expect you will first name me. I will name.
Yeah, you still have those impressions. Why I'm not asking you in the first? That subtle ego is
It
still
was
present.
no, no, sir, means I was putting on my specs.
Yeah.
It was very good meditation. I was deep into peace.
Very
Really,
deep,
very deep.
very deep, very deep.
Ah.
Always expect the unexpected can happen in this session. How are you, Stephen?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. There's no dancing going on here.
Good.
Very, very settled into the meditation from the moment my eyes were closed. Very dark space. The only thing that was different per se was when we got to the triangle. I could feel my heart beating inside my body. And I recognized it, and I felt it the rest of the meditation, but was unbothered by it. it was just a very nice meditation, realizing that I am the peace.
Beautiful. You see, we need not to get worried even we have an experience of palpitation of the heart. When your palpitation of the heart has stopped, mind is internalized. So now when the mind is very near to the heart, so we will feel that those beat. So it has nothing to do with anything wrong. So now we experience, that experience tells me that the mind is definitely inside. It can feel the palpitation so close. It can feel the palpitation of the movement of that prana into my head. So that is how the masters have recognized there are 72,000, Stephen, you have edited the book, 72,864 energy pathways. And Dennis has basically uploaded that book. How are you, David and Jerry? No, Sam is also the editor, I'm sorry to forget,
Yeah, it was really great. The contemplation and reflection I will have, based on the lecture or the talk at the beginning is, we are to other people what our actions portray to them, or our words or our words or our actions portray to them. So it's interesting to really bond with someone. We really need to be careful and be very clear what we say and do, which is kind of interesting. And then the meditation was really, really, really deep, really simple. During the jop, I got a tickly throat for whatever reason, took some water, and then right back into it. Very, very, very deep. So thank you.
Beautiful. And David has invoked he's talked about a very higher principle. Do you see that Jerry first proposed to have 2 sessions a week? Long back, it has been now 4 years. Now we have to think of an intention. Her intention was clear. I will tell you, both of you, David and Jerry. So how should I create that intention? So you are contributing, so let me also become the contributor to the maximum people. You simply think of it, mentally and emotionally. So what happens? Then you are connected to the people in the world in a higher level. And that's a very higher principle we are going to talk in Gita. So that helps the collective evolution. It's such a great principle that you are always a contributor. Should I think as a teacher that I'm teaching, they all live in ignorance? That is a wrong approach. That's a totally wrong approach, especially in the journey of Eastern. It may happen in Harvard University, it may happen in Ivy League, but that is not the nature of teaching. You spend time, some of you pay money, so I should be respectful for that. You see, that attitude helps us. Not only helps you, but it helps everyone. Christina, that is the nature of the spirituality. How are you, Jerry?
I'm good, thank you. The talk resonated with me. I like the idea of dancing with this attitude of love, of wishing well to all, of all the meaning of the mantra. And it's important to me to have my actions match my words. And then during the meditation, I was aware, during the triangle, when you were saying sinking, I felt rising and lighter. So just the mind kind of looked at that. And then during the japa, I felt even more rise and thought, well, the mind said, well, that's the letting go. That's the emptying of the judgment, criticism of all those things that you talked about.
Beautiful, beautiful. You use the right word, rise in consciousness, rise in awareness. So when we rise in awareness where the objective reality is dropped by the mind, you enter into the spiritual reality. I'm just translating by your own experiences when you share. Because if I give you an imaginative, I explain everything about the spiritual reality, your mind will start imagining, and that will create a lot of duality and a conflict. How are you, Dennis? We were talking about you, we were praising you. Hi, and David.
Thank you, I'm good. Was very deep and peaceful meditation, no distractions. I didn't notice any distractions from the mind, from the senses. It was very deep.
Very deep.
No particular things to add to this.
Beautiful. You know, it is a kind of self-absorption, and I'm aware of that self-absorption. Normally in the self-absorption in the material world is different from this. In the self-absorption in the material world, a kind of self-forgetfulness is there. Here it is not. So that is how you recognize that, I'm totally absorbed, I have no distractions at all. It means that awareness is there. Beautiful, Denise. And now let us go to Brandy.
Morning. My meditation was good. It was mostly inward focused. I had a few distractions, but I was able to bring it back.
Bring it back. Yes. Beautiful. So the more and more we bring back, we evolve, we rise in consciousness. Beautiful, Brandy. How are you, Christina?
Very well, thank you. I noticed some distractions even during the lesson, and recognized the act of my, like the analogy of the dancing. My mind has every dance worked out and mastered, and so this practice really does help to notice that and keep bringing it back. So I'm always surprised how peaceful I can feel by the end every time, no matter how much distraction arises.
Beautiful. That is another way to explain that. It means in the beginning of the journey and the practice, we have a lot of distractions. Now, I had suddenly a thought popped up in my mind. Ask yourself why my mind is distracted because of one reason. Why mind is distracted because of second reason to a second person, third reason to a third person. It is because of accumulated impressions. The way I have accumulated and stored the impressions, that is going to pop up. So as far as distraction is concerned, it is common. But there are a variety of ways I can be distracted. Why? Because I have those impressions accumulated. They take the form of an attitude, and they also constitute an unwanted, unwelcome thought pattern. How it can be removed? We are already doing the self-inquiry. How are you? Who is left? Sam. Yes, let us go to Sam.
Good. Lesson was good today. I felt a little bit off my balance center during the meditation. I almost fell over sideways a couple of times, which has never happened before.
Oh.
But kept bringing myself back to center and felt good.
Good. Continue doing it. It will happen. It has to happen if you are committed. How are you, Shok?
Sir, I'm peace and calm, and it was a very good session. And today I have started my physiotherapy with the doctor.
Wonderful. You are improving day after day. Yes, beautiful. Beautiful. I have to say one thing. My mind pops up. In Gita, we talk about how this, because Ashok had an accident, that event of accident took place. So Gita also explains that what kind of a thought pattern we attract in our mind that causes this accident. There are two options. One is because I have accumulated impressions coming from my previous birth. I can minimize it, but sometimes I cannot avoid it. And the second is caused by my own making, which I feel it is the fault of the others. So just remember, so we will continue. How are you? We have Web.
Thank you, sir. Mine was calm. It was relaxed. In the meditation, I was just realizing that it's not the mind because of which I am changing, but I can always change what is happening in my mind. So I can always stop that what is coming and make it calm and peaceful.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Look at his explanation. Understand that explanation. That the moment I have that I am changing, it is ego. Behind that, there has to be unchanging reality. Thank you very much for contributing. It helps me to personalize another group session next time based on your experiences. You are helping me, in fact. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste. Namaste.